What's going on, folks? Today I'm going to be reviewing the board game Solarquest. This game came out in 1986 from Golden Games, and it is for 2 to 6 players. Now, Solarquest is often called Space Monopoly, and the object of this game is you're going to try to be the last player on the board, and you're going to either try to bankrupt everybody, possibly shoot somebody out with lasers, or hope that they will get stranded on a planet. Rather unique game, so let's go ahead and show you how it works. Okay, folks, let's go ahead and show you the game. Here you have your game board, and this basically represents the solar system and has all the planets and the moons as they were seen in the 1980s. Now, I actually have a 90s version of this game that has about 6 or 7 extra moons on there, and I'm assuming they just discovered that between that game and this one. This game has 46 or so title deed cards in it, so there's a lot of title deeds. Anyway, just some things on this game that you can purchase. You can purchase planets. The planets that you can purchase are Mercury, which is over here. You can purchase Venus, which is over there, Mars, which is over there, and you can also purchase Pluto. And here's basically the type of a deed card you're going to get, and this is Pluto. There's a lot of different color groups in here, and how many that are in each color group is represented by the maximum number that is on here. So pink has Pluto and its moon. Now, whenever you land on an unknown planet, you will be able to purchase it. The same with a moon or a space station or a research lab, and I'll talk about those here in a little bit. And you're also going to start with what are called fuel stations, and these are these little silver things over here. Each person is going to start with 3 of these, and the deal with the fuel stations is whenever you purchase one of these planets or moons, it can immediately place one of the fuel stations that you have on there, and this is going to allow you to refuel if you land on it again, and it'll also allow your opponent to refuel, but they're going to have to pay you money. And the way you're going to figure that is just simply by how many of the properties that you own. So if I only own Pluto, and this is the purchase price over here to buy it for, and if I only own Pluto and somebody landed on it, this is how much rent they would pay me. And if they needed to use some fuel, this is how much they would pay me in the money, which is represented over there. And those are called federons. You're going to start with 3 of each bill. That basically means it would cost 20 federons per hydrant of fuel. And hydrants basically means each unit of fuel over here. So this is a hydrant, this is a hydrant, and everyone's going to start with 25 hydrants of fuel. Now, the way the purchasing of the fuel works is you'll just simply pay this much added to how many hydrants you want to buy. So if you wanted to buy, say, 4 hydrants, and you happen to be down here at 6, you would go ahead and pay that person $80 if they only owned the planet. But if they own the planet and the moon, you would end up paying them this much. So I would go ahead and give them, say, $80, and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then move them up here. Now, if I happen to land on a planet of mine that has fuel, I'll be able to refuel myself back all the way up. And the same goes if I ended up purchasing a planet and placed a fuel station. If I was down here, I could go ahead and zip myself up that way as well, all the way to the top. Now, the times we're going to use fuel is anytime you are on a planet or moon and you roll the dice. And this is basically how you're going to be moving. You're going to roll the dice and move that many spaces. But if you end up, like, say, on a planet over here and you're moving from a planet, because you're going to have to use fuel to boost away from the gravitational pull. So in this case, I rolled a 10. Let's just say I was up here and this guy moved 10. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He would end up using 10 hydrants of fuel, so then he would go from 25 down to 15. So one thing you have to be wary of is how much fuel you have, and you kind of have to balance that out between your purchases and the rent that you have to pay and everything, because if you end up running out of fuel and you're on a planet or a moon, you're going to lose. So something you just have to be aware of. Now let's go ahead and talk about the other things that are in this game. You also have what are called moons. Each planet has a number of them here, and here's a moon. This is Titan, and this is a natural satellite of Saturn, and Saturn happens to have 10 of these different moons on there that you can purchase. There's quite a lot. Now, if you happen to own, like, say, 6 of these properties in this color group, you would go ahead and if someone landed on, say, Titan, and you happen to have 6 of the different moons or whatever around Saturn in this color group, they would go ahead and pay you this much amount of money. And if they wanted to buy fuel, this is how much it would be in hydrants. And that's basically the way it works with all the different types of cards. Here's another thing you can get. These are called research labs. These just simply will let people pay lab fees. I guess they kind of work the same way that railroads do a monopoly, but it's the same deal. However many labs you own, if someone lands on this particular lab, this is how much they would owe you if you happen to own 4 labs. You also have space docks. Again, there's 5 of these. Now, space stocks are places where you can refuel for free if you own it. If you don't own it, then you can fuel for this much per hydrant. And once again, depending on how many of the space stocks you own, that is how much people are going to end up paying you for the rent. And finally, you have what are called the Federation stations, and these are throughout the board. You will actually collect money if you end up landing on this. You can't own it, but this one says collect 250. Now, another thing you can do is if you land on Federation station is you can purchase the fuel tanks for 500 Federons, as they call it, each. And fuel tanks are pretty important in this game. But anyway, if I happen to land on this and I say I wanted to get 2 fuel tanks, I could spend $1,000 and get the 2 fuel tanks and then add it to my supply over there. Now, if you happen to roll doubles, you're going to go ahead and pick up what is called a red shift card. And what you're going to do is you're simply going to turn the card over and just follow what the directions are. A lot of times it'll tell you how many hydrants of fuel that you'll be able to use. In this case, you're just going to be using fuel. But let's just pick up another one here. This one says advance to Federation Station 1 near Mercury, and it'll tell you how many hydrants of fuel that you'll use. So you'll just simply follow the directions on there. If you pass Earth, you're going to end up receiving 500 Federons. If you land on Earth, you're going to receive 1,000. But if you happen to draw a red shift card that will let you go past Earth, because to say get to Mars, for example, from here, you'll still collect the money. Now, you can also refuel from Earth, but it's going to cost you 25 Federons or dollars per hydrant in order to do it. Now, one interesting thing is that you can actually buy planets or moons out from under people if you happen to have 11 or less on your fuel gauge over here. So let's say I happen to land on Mercury over here, and let's just say I happen to own it, and let's just say I did not have a fuel station on there. Basically what the rules say is if I own Mercury and I don't have a fuel station on there, and an opponent lands on me when he has this amount of fuel left, then he'll be able to purchase Mercury from me right out from under me, and there won't be anything that I can do about it. He would just simply purchase it for the deed price. So again, interesting little rule there. Now, there's also a couple of dots on this board. The first one is a blue dot. This just simply represents drifting in space. And then you have these gravitational pull dots over here. And basically what this means is you have to be able to roll a number greater than these in order to get over to the next orbit. So if I happen to be over here and I roll a 4, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, I wouldn't be able to do it because I can't make it out of the gravitational pull. So then I would just go this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, and do that. Now, another unique rule is the sign-op one over here. Right over here is sign-op. Now, you'll be able to land on sign-op if you want to, as long as you have at least 5 hydrants of fuel to get over to the next location. If you don't, then you're not going to be able to. But you can either go this way or this way. If you have the 5 hydrants, you can go here. If you don't, you can go here. Now, if it turns out that you are on a moon or a planet and you don't happen to, and you say have 5 hydrants of fuel and you end up rolling and roll a 7, you're not going to be able to move because you don't have that much fuel. So essentially what's going to happen is that you're going to not move. But the thing is if you're on somebody else's planet, you're going to have to keep paying them rent until you can actually get off the planet. Now, there's another thing you have, what is called the laser. You can actually kill people off in this game, and the way you'll do that is if you're like within 2 spaces away from somebody, you can pay whatever a certain amount of money is that the instructions tell you and fire as many lasers as you want, so long as you can afford it, or however many you want to do. Basically the rule is like this: if you end up rolling doubles, your opponent is going to have to pay you 100 times whatever you rolled. If you roll double 6s, then you're going to take your opponent out and he'll be out of the game. Anything else that is rolled is not going to count against him, but the person who shoots the lasers is still going to have to pay money. There's a few ways you can actually get eliminated from this game. One is if you go bankrupt, and that just simply means if you cannot pay money that you need to. Say you landed on someone's property and you owed them $1,800 or something, and they can't pay you, then they're going to have to start selling off some of their properties or trading it. That's one way that they can get some money back. The properties basically go for whatever their face value is, and they can sell that back. They can sell it to an opponent in hopes to try to raise money. If they want to sell their fuel tanks, they can do that for 500 Federon each. And so basically you just have to do that until you can afford to pay the person. And if you can't afford to pay them, then you're going to be bankrupt and out of the game. Another way you can get eliminated is if you are stranded on a planet or a moon. And basically this happens, let's just say I was on Mercury or something like that, and I happen to have one fuel left. I cannot roll a 1 because I got to roll both die, and I have to somehow get myself refueled. If I cannot get myself refueled, then I'm going to be out of the game because I will be stranded. Now, if I happen to be like have one or no fuel, like say on a blue dot or one of these stations over here, the space docks, I don't have to worry about it because I don't need fuel to leave a space dock or research lab or Federation station. I only need fuel for the planets and the moons. So even if I'm out of fuel, and if I land on one of those, I still have a chance of trying to get fuel. And of course, the other way you can die is with a laser. If someone shoots you with the laser by rolling doubles, you're going to be out of the game. So anyway, that's kind of the way the game works. It's very Monopoly-like. Everybody's going to go ahead and take their turn, move around the board, buy their fuel, buy planets, by deeds, whatever, and the winner of the game is going to be the person that is the last person standing in the game, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is Solarquest. So my final thoughts on Solarquest, the game. Well, I first heard about this game from my friend Fur from South Korea. He's one of my subscribers, and I heard other few people talk about it on my channel just through comments and stuff, and I was curious about it. Well, sometime later, I ended up finding the Apollo 13 edition of this game, which was made probably 10 years or so after this one, and there really weren't that many rule changes. But anyway, I found this one sometime after that. So anyway, it's pretty simple. If you're a fan of Monopoly, this is a game you are definitely going to like. I like the space theme, and this game is more challenging than Monopoly because there's a couple other ways you can die, by laser, for example, by getting stranded, and the addition of the fuel tanks definitely adds to the strategy of this game. I can't tell you how many times my wife and I ran out of fuel because we just did our strategies wrong. You know, you're thinking, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to go ahead and put a fuel tank on here, spend money on a fuel tank, collect some, or try to buy some properties, or, you know, just lots of different things that you have to think about in this game. But it's not complicated either. Once you get the hang of it, and the instructions are maybe 4 pages long, it's a fun game. I guess this game does take a little while to play. There's a lot of deed cards. You could, of course, put a time limit on the game. The instructions suggest doing that. But other than that, this is a solid game. Plays like Monopoly. It's more challenging than Monopoly. In a lot of ways, I think it's better than Monopoly. So just a game that if you enjoy Monopoly or you enjoy those types of games, definitely check this game out. It doesn't go for much. I think you can get it for probably about 15 bucks or so on eBay. So it's cheap, easy to learn, and fun. So, guys, my review of Solarquest is now over. Take care. Keep on gaming. We'll see you soon.